Welcome everybody. Welcome to our program On Target. Just have one more day to go before independence. And we want to thank you for joining our program, making contributions. And you are always welcome, highly appreciated. And we encourage you to share our program, like our program, and to subscribe to RealFM. We never have a subject matter, and today is no difference. You can call and speak on any issue. We are approaching 49 years of independence tomorrow. And obviously, some people may have a lot to say about it, and we give you a free chance to make your contribution about independence, about experience you have if you were around and big enough 50 years ago. Know about your expectations, what you would like to see, what you don't agree with, any issue. You can bring it on our program here. The number to call is 4420175. We will try to take some comments from Facebook and also from YouTube. Sometimes you may hear a little tweeting or screeching or noise with the internet. That's a challenge we have. Stick with us. Sometimes for a few seconds, you hear the internet screeching. I don't know if that's the most appropriate word to use, but it may annoy you. But stick with us. I believe the station is trying to solve that problem with the company from which you get the internet. We again apologize for that screeching, although it is beyond our control here. Yes, today is approaching 49 years. Grenada became independent. You have a number of small celebrations in the community and village. In some villages, people need to clean up and put a little bunting. In the village of Moya, you have something like a double bridge there. And I see some of the individuals there working to make there something like a fountain. A lot of years ago, they did it, it was good. So they are trying it again. And we encourage people to participate in the celebration. Enjoy yourself, irrespective of what is going on. Remember, we are a small population, about 100,000 people. Our population have not increased in the last 100 years. Grenada perhaps have suffered from serious migration and low birth rate. All women might have to be provided with some incentive to have children. We may have to encourage people to shack up, get married, and shack up. Girl leaves school 16, 18 years, and not to say that individuals go to university or they want to be professional, make a decision to have a single life. I think people are not encouraging. You must want grandchildren, so you must encourage your girls to make children. Encourage your couple and get married or shack up. As the secular world dominates, you will find more and more people are not having children because it's Christianity that really encourages people to get married and to live with one another and have children. Sometimes you meet some people in Grenada 30 years, some girl 30, 35. They don't have a child yet. And sometimes I like to engage them in conversation. And they have intention of having children. They say, well, you're 35 years. What you waiting on? One recently told me she wants something behind she named first. She wanted a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. So by the time she gets that, she might be about 40. So to have a child now, she might have to use a sledgehammer and a cold chisel. And sometimes she don't even have a man yet. And some boys must be encouraged to have their children. Because by the time they're 40 years, the testosterone level in their body start to drop. The HB start to drop. And they might not be as prolific as they could be. But they don't know that. So parents have to encourage their sons. You 18, 19, 20 years, what you waiting on? You with this girl 2 years. If you're not in a productive mood after 2 years, you stand to lose the woman. You don't have a child, you don't have a cat, you don't have a dog together, you never even plant a tree together. You have a tourist relationship, visiting one another for 2 years. You are not building anything. You see, as a people, we have to want to make more. If you like your family and you believe you have a good family, you must want numbers. You must want them make more children. And yes, perhaps they could have a child when they put, after the 40, they might start to make. But the chances of medical challenges and they making deformed children and Mongol is greater. So it's always better to have children within childbearing age. And the legal childbearing age in Grenada is 16 plus. Not the biological. Government determined that when a girl is 16 years old, she is mature enough to say yes. So that's when the legal childbearing age starts. Not after 40. After 40, you might make one sometime. You have to have deep pockets. You might have to spend some money in hospital. So we have to encourage our people. We have a lot of family names here that will die. They didn't make any children. By the time you reach the age of 60, you're getting old. You're old. And by that age, you start to lose your friends. Your friends would start to disappear. Some of them will die. And you have to prepare for old age. Maybe a home, hospital, wearing pampers. So it's very good for young people to understand that they have children. Among black people, particularly in the Caribbean and in the Western world, black women are starting to have children the latest. In almost all the other ethnic groups outside of Africa, black people are having children the latest. They're studying the most. 35 years, 30 years, they make one child. So we in Grenada must encourage our people to have children. Encourage our young men to shack up and get married. We live in a Christian society where the order of the day ought to be one man, one woman. Well, we know that sometimes it's difficult to stick with, but I believe it's a question of encouragement. A number of young people end up aborting their children, and they regret it. They're sorry after. More often than not, that decision is made because of lack of support. Afraid to offend the parents. A child is a gift from God. And you want to make more. If you're proud of yourself as a young man, then you want to make more like you. If you're proud of yourself as a young woman, you want to make more like you. We have more people in the home for the ages than perhaps anybody else in the region. That's another matter and another subject matter for discussion. But it's a question of culture. And parents sometimes have to encourage their young ones to have children and help them too. If your daughter goes to school and by some means she gets pregnant, give her support. Help her. Help her. Give her support. Sometimes that is the child later on that putting on pampers on you. Sometimes that is the child that leading the country, that is the prime minister or the doctor in the community. A child is a gift from God. Irrespective of the circumstances or the condition and under which that child born, the child is a gift from God. And parents must give them support. I've said to a group of young men, you must help your sister. The sister have a rude mouth. So she had a child very young the brothers and parents didn't agree that she fixed them up. She fixed them up. But as a result of that, they holding it against her. Said, no. Help her. Give her financial support. Help her. Give her support. You know? Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, my brother, welcome. Thank you, my brother. We are independence people. Yeah. Yes, my brother, thank you for that call. It called the laws of diminishing return. You see, as long as we go on, people forget the struggle and the cries of the trouble. It is kind of natural. The laws of diminishing return. Montrich pay a heavy price for the support of Eric Matthew Gairy. That was one of the villages that was targeted by pollution. It was, I believe, from Montrich that the first dark-skinned person was had to work Barclays Bank because as a result of Eric Gairy intervening, they employed that, and I believe Ebenezer Joshua from St. Vincent, one of them, I'm not certain, I believe it's Ebenezer. I think his wife was also from Montrich. Long history, but we like to read history that in the school. We don't like to tell our children our history. So our children growing up, and they're not very proud of us. They're not very proud of our people because they don't know our history. They go to school and read history. That's why I don't pay no attention, no longer pay attention to the history taught in school, but encourage people to tell your children your history. It was hard. It was a very hard road. Some people believe we have not achieved much. And maybe, yes, it's difficult for them to comprehend The days when the majority of houses didn't have toilet, and we used to have to go to the river and the water hole for water, and we used to walk without shoes to go to school. And parents had to bring children. And parents had to bring their children to help them to cut the task. You see, we don't know about those days. And we come now and we believe it was always like that. That the roads was always good. And getting a ride on a donkey was a serious achievement. People used to have to walk to go to Maribor Hospital. And you see people with 2 wood in a caucus bag bringing somebody by ton to the hospital. You see, we don't know about those days. When a school used to have 1 person passing common entrance, the whole village celebrate because the school gets one. We don't know about this. Eric Matthew Gairy, throughout his legacy, we could say 28 schools was built in 13.5 years. And the Land for the Landless program, making Grenada one of the biggest land owners in the region and giving people a sense of proprietorship, because land was a significant source of power and importance in our society. And then Gairy continued, he believed in education with a passion. And people still complain. We can't go to school, we have no food. So Gairy introduced the truancy officers to go around in the communities and make certain children go to school. At that time, the leaders in the country, in the village, the planters and other people with education, they did not want children to go to school. They say, who is going to work the land when Gairy is building all these schools? So Gairy had truancy officers going out and have to beg his own people to go to school. He introduced technical education and pre-primary education. The St. George's University and Wellington Friday joined Gairy and come up with the concept of university without walls. At that time, it was not even a concept in the Caribbean yet. Wellington Friday introduced the concept of university without walls in Grenada. For a man who never been to a secondary school, education was so important to him. He encourages people, get educated, educate the children. And that is one of the reasons Gairy invites some of his inner students. A bright man coming to join me. At that time, Ben Jones was in England. But when Ben Jones reached in Grenada, the GNP go and meet him with cars, with their vehicles. And they give him a tour around the island. And they convince him then, with all this education you have, how could you join Gairy? So Ben Jones didn't join Gairy again, he joined GNP. Another individual who was educated, he was a teacher then. He was a Presbyterian minister. He left Gairy and joined GNP because they were saying, you're too bright to join this dunce, illiterate set of people. He became the ambassador of Suriname during the revolution. But he soon followed to the revolution and he escaped jail because he had to object to the treatment of our own people. We have a long history. The saddest thing to see the children of labor turn against their parents, turn against the elderly, turn against the weak, turn against the sick. They introduced a number of homes for the aged. He said, no, we cannot let our people like that. So he built home for the aged, for these people who were sick and they had no one. He changed the name from the poorhouse to Richmond Hill's home. He said, these are the people that build this country. So we can't call it the poorhouse. Call it Richmond Hill home. And he tried to improve the life of the children, the workers on the estate, the elderly. And then he opened cemeteries. Because in those days, you had the church cemetery. And some people that didn't used to go to church, the church didn't want them to bury in the cemetery. So Gairy opened cemeteries in some communities for people to bury with a sense of dignity. That was the nature of the man who fought for independence. And it was not an easy task because the intelligentsia was against him. The University of the West Indies was against him. The lawyers was against him. The trade union leaders was against him. The businessmen was against him. The Committee of 22. And Maurice Bishop then, young, handsome, charismatic, eloquent individual, come back, an orator, and they joined the war against Eric Gairy. It was a war that was well fought, you know. Eventually, Grenada got independence. In the dark of night, one of the female ministers was, when they stoned the party, one of the female ministers got a cut on her leg. She was traveling from the western side. She said she ended up in a car with 4 men. She had never seen them before. When she recovered and she asked, where who? They said, don't worry. You're in safe hands. We're bringing you in Maribor. So they brought her from the western side to go up in Maribor. And she went in Maribor, got tucked in stitches on her leg. And 2 days after that, was celebrating independence. You know, they had lion heart. Young people then, maybe she was in her latter 20s, married. Today, some of the women don't have no sense of family. Some of the individuals involved in politics today, they can't even keep their family together. And that was a struggle in those days, struggle for independence. They were struggling for the poor of the poor. Sick people, little children. There was no big names in the Gairy struggle. All the bigger names was on the opposition. And they was fighting. They did not want Grenada to get independence. After federation came to naught, Jamaica pulled out. The other countries begged Eric Williams, let's go together. But Eric Williams came up with his mathematical formula. 1 from 10 is not. Then Gairy called on St. Lucia, Dominica, and St. Vincent. Let us go little 8. But Mr. Blaze and Ben Jones and the others in Grenada was campaigning, no damn little 8, unitary state. That was his slogan in the 72 election. No damn little 8, unitary state. Forbes Bonham in Guyana encouraged them to go 8 of them together because they believed they couldn't stand up alone. And with the level of bitterness, hate, and anger by the intellectuals in Grenada and the lack of support from anywhere else in the Caribbean, perhaps Grenada got the worst deal in front of the British government in terms of its constitution. In those days, the trade union was involved, fighting down. They didn't want independence. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Hey, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, scholar, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, I want to say advance happy 49th anniversary, birthday anniversary of Grenada. All right? Grenada is a beautiful country. All right? And I do believe, Mr. Pierre, Grenada could be much more beautiful But one of you see, even the country, what we really have to do, we have to put aside our political differences and let everyone see ourselves. Let everyone see Ghanaians as true patriots, Ghanaians that love and care. I want to see everyone benefit from whatsoever benefit that is taking place in the country. And Mr. Pierre, you know, sometimes when we say beautiful, right? Yes, it's beautiful. When you look at the the street, the road, when you look at the buildings, wonderful buildings. But that the buildings is important, but then we have to change our attitude towards one another. And if we change our attitude towards one another, greater could be much more beautiful. As the Carlton said in his song, we come a long way and we still have a long way to go. Because when you check the development, because when you come in town to do so a business before, you might take you the whole day disappear and still end up finishing do what you do. Right? So you have where government, NMP government, what they did, when they look at the situation, see boy, make life much easier for people. They put a ministry, all the ministry 1 billion. So if you come from one ministry to a next ministry, in another two or half an hour, 10 minutes to go from one ministry to a ministry, all of them is same billion. When you look at games appear, about the school of medicine, Gairy, I'm looking at schools that built, right, to bring development in the education. Mr. Pierre, when you look again at the transformation in electricity, the transformation in water. You know, before that, when you go in a visit village, you may find 1 person, 2 person with a fridge, and the neighbors to go and beg for it. But if you take village now, the majority of homes they have electricity. They have water running right inside the house. That is development. That is transformation, Mr. Pierre. Great. Look at games appear, the bus terminal. You know when the bus is parked up in the market within the vendors. You look at transformation again, the bus there on the own in the bus terminal. You look at games appear, the road network is more developed. So there's a lot of development that took place, but we still have a long way to go. And looking at this, the what call it, the stadium, the athletic stadium separe, and the cricket stadium transformation that take make Grenada name bigger and bigger in the world. Well, because when people used to hear about Grenada, when where this place is, but because of the development and transformation, Grenada is shining bright. And I want to say that we say a government continuation. I do believe that for we to go forward faster, whatsoever things that the government had in place and the government coming, they should continue to go there. Because if you want to go forward faster, right, you continue to go there. But if when government leave office and the government come and want to change everything and go back, you will see hinder any country from going forward. So Mr. Pierre, I was happy Independent Day to we Ghanaians and for we to go forward and for we to have a greater to be much more beautiful, we have to change our attitude towards one another and let us love. Put aside hatred, put aside political division, put aside everything, and let us see other people as we see ourselves. Let us love one another. And once we could do that, Grenada could be a better place for we to be. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, my brother, and over the last 50 years, we have achieved a lot in Grenada. Electricity, water, telephone, and internet. Over 90% of our people have access to these facilities. Over 90%. And I'm being extra conservative. We have the most landowners in the region, perhaps in the whole world. African countries today are struggling for land. Yes, scholar, punch.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr.
Yes,
P.
my brother.
Very important. I was in 1973, that same year I was born, so in 74, Green Academy Independence. And listening to your program and to your discussion, and I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together to see if I could get 4 or 22. Now, I'm comparing Eric Party, the United Labour Party, and the GMP. And I'm comparing NNP and NDC. And it is the same thing. Just as so the Blaze and Party, the GMP Party, is the Gairy Party, dunce, illiterate, backward, gullible. The same thing with the NDC and the NNP, saying that the NNP dunce, illiterate, gullible, backward, And even when Gairy did all these developments, he was so dunce, yet for he had so much of vision to do all these developments. And comparing them back then, when they didn't want Gairy to get, they didn't want independence of Grenada, What I understand that they wanted independence, but under their leadership, where they will be in power, right? And that is what they want. What they wanted the independence. They wanted the development under their administration. They was jealous of Uncle Gairy, and just as what's the NDC today, they are jealous of Dr. Mitchell because the vision and the development he did to Grenada, move Grenada forward. Everything what was good for Grenada, these people demonstrate for it. It's the same thing with Uncle Gairy back then. Things what was good and development for Grenada, these people demonstrate against it. Imagine you're demonstrating against education. And could you imagine how people then had to leave school, go to the bush? When I've seen people like Mr. St. Paul, Johnny Branch, and these people taking out poor people children to come and walk the estate. You understand? And I watch at this thing, and one person was admired was Mr. Stefan Guaf. He said, if my children could get the education, other people children could get the education. So he never used to encourage the children, children to come and walk his land.
A lot of the stout Gayryites did not used to encourage children to come up land. A lot of the stouts then, those who had a little thing, they would want the children to go to school. Because that was the philosophy of Gairy. So if there were individuals in the closer circle of Gairy, they will be advocating the same in the village education.
Okay. Yeah, because what I understand, but what I'm trying to say, some of the poor people, children, sometimes they have to go and walk them.
Yeah, we used to go and drug banana on Monday and Tuesday, and Friday you go and pick up nutmeg, and you go to school the rest of it.
To own a daily.
Yeah, no choice.
Poor parents,
Yeah, thing real bad.
Yeah. Anyway,
yes, my brother. Yeah. And Gairy used to say, the difficult things we do now, the impossible things we do tomorrow. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, one of Gary's favorite quote. When people say it can't happen, Uncle, how that go happen? He said the difficult things we do now, the impossible we do tomorrow. And some parents used to be saying that too. When you talk to them, they say, do it now. Sometimes they send you in the rain. Somebody very militant Gayryites used to want to imitate Uncle Gairy. We do it now. We do it today, not tomorrow. Because Gairy encouraged them that. When you meet a little child and you say, what the child doing? Some people say, cursing. If he could curse, he could learn. Send him to school. If he could curse, he could learn. The child dancing. If he could dance, learn. A lot of emphasis was placed on education. And there were individuals in that time in the community that was begging people, send your child to school. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Pierre, how are you?
Great, man.
Happy independence to you.
Thank you, my brother.
And the rest of the nation. Yes, your history is so much. I hope young people is listening and see how many people that mislead them because they never teach them that part of the real history. So I hope they're listening and understand, but this part I didn't get it. So coming back to this history, coming to Progress Park today. Remember, estate was banana field, and I could say to people how that park had been implemented. because the guys in Paradise been playing cricket.
Jukes on them.
They used to play wind ball cricket in the morning for whatever, 35 cents, whatever they used to trump up. And that Sunday morning, I'll never forget, there was a meeting people throwing monk treats. And the motorcade was coming up. And whoever those guys were coming up, the guys wouldn't move the wicket from the road.
Jukes on them, no Uncle Gary pass and they get in
That's
trouble.
right. So they wouldn't move the wicket from the road. So they had confrontation with Russian and parked the bike aside. But that time those guys have this kind of a revo thing was billing into them.
Yeah.
It was billing into them.
Defense.
And when they start pushing one another, so Eric Matthew Gairy came out, saw the commercial, get off the car, walk to the guys and ask, say, what's happening? And they explained to him, well, we have no problem. Okay, guys. Say, okay, we going to a meeting up in Montreal. You guys move the wicket. I'll get you guys. I'll never forget that. I'll get you guys a big ground. It was a Sunday. And I was going to school at St. Andrews Methodist at the time. And school was over in 3:30. And believe me, when I get to there, I never reach home until 6 o'clock. So I had an excuse. I had to reach home earlier than that before. But it was coconut tree on the ground, banana, or it was people condemn him. They say, oh, the man threw on banana cocoa. Today, Progress Park.
And it's progress.
Listen,
Action and progress.
That come out from within,
Yeah.
from that playground. Progress Park.
Yeah. Progress Park.
So I'm telling you, the thing about it is, the elites could talk, but if they don't have vision, they have no way to take this country. I could tell you that you have to have vision. And if you don't have vision, trust me, you don't know where to start. Believe me. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yes, scholar. Action and progress. That was another of his favorite quote. Action and progress. Yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar. All right. He gave another of Gary's favorite quote was action and progress. Not much talk. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Hi, Mr. Pierre.
Yes,
how are
scholar.
you?
Great, man.
Good program. As the last caller talking about vision, Gairy had real vision, and I am making a comment on what you have said earlier about the truancy officers that went around getting the children back to school. That Gairy always, for the poor, and always tell the parents, ensure your children go to school and learn well, and so on. And I could remember, right in Hermitage Day, the children used to go to Tivoli, to school. And you know the distance between Tivoli and Hermitage. And as you're so right, when you have Friday come, you know, a lot of they attend.
Bacchanal.
Yes,
Yeah.
so because they had to go and pick up the nutmeg
Nutmegs,
and so on.
yeah.
And the parents was having real problem. I mean, you know, in the school, maybe 5 and 3 and 4 that turn out to school. So what Eric done, the vision, as the caller before said, that school, that primary school in Hermitage was built, and you had a little a lady with a little car, Miss Hutchinson.
Miss Hutchinson, man.
Yes.
Miss Telesford, Miss Hutchinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
She used to go all around and get the children to go to school.
They was cross on the field, you know.
Yes.
When they come, they go into you, they threatening with police.
Yes. And also, not only in Hermitage, that secondary school in Montrose is Sir Eric built that school, you know. Just
28 school in
to go
13 and a half years.
secondary and primary education. Yes, that's the vision. And with one of the callers earlier talk about the transformation and the vision of Dr. Kit Mitchell, you know, the infrastructural development in this country, roads, water.
Electricity, telephone, water.
Yes.
The most amount of scholarship in any 5-year period in Grenada.
Grenada.
St. George's University call him the father of education.
Yes.
And the most amount of investment for people in the lower income strata.
Yes.
And the only political leader that fight to make jobs all the time.
Yes. And I can remember one day he was in Parliament, and when he brought up the idea of science and technology and computerizing the schools, one certain former MP said, "What about libraries?" So, in the NDC. So there wasn't a way, but Dr. Mitchell's vision is to, computerization, science and technology.
Color is only two powerful leaders we have in this country that have always seen the interests of the marginalized.
And look at what, and even your brother, former speaker, Mr. Michael Pierre.
There is an estate child.
Yes.
He used to go and cut grass.
Yes.
During August holiday, 17, 18 tasks.
Yes.
In the land.
Today, we see up the cell phones, the WhatsApp, parents communicating with teachers. And we have seen in COVID time, we have the e-learning and so on. All that is the work of our great leader, so Dr. Kit Mitchell.
Yes, Father. I think one of the biggest challenges we don't defend our leaders. People after a time afraid to defend Eric Gairy because the children of labor, when they get educated, they turn on Eric Gairy. And during Kit Mitchell time, people did not defend him. So the leaders have to defend themselves. We let opposition members cow us down so that we don't speak up when they did what was right. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hello, good evening, Mr.
Yes,
Pierre.
caller, welcome.
Expo 69.
Expo 69, man.
Miss Wall.
He said the difficult things we do now, the impossible we do tomorrow.
Yeah, Miss Wall, Jennifer Houston, 1970.
1970, yeah.
Yeah, and you see, you cannot differ from the fact that the GNP in 1962 promised Grenadians a unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago, and Grenadians would get the same pay as a counterpart in Trinidad.
They always use that law.
However, the GNP was unable to take Grenada in a unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago because Eric Williams wouldn't have that. 1 from 10 live not.
One from 10 lives not.
So when Gairy returned to office in 1967, and they realized that Grenada would get independence in 1974, that is when all hell broke loose. They was unable to achieve a unitary statehood with Trinidad and Tobago, but Gairy was fully on the road to independence, and that angered them, and they had this hate and the maliciousness, and that is why. But today, you see, the same plantocracy, the big business, they are the biggest beneficiary of independence because they have commercialized independence with all the commodities they are bringing in, all the regalias, and the poor people who support Gairy independence, they have not benefiting. What they do, they have lost $150 from the seed program for supporting grassroots parties. That is what happened. That is what is happening to us today. Same group of people. That's why I call them the dons in borrow feathers.
I will agree with you on a borrowing that. Yes, scholar.
Thank you.
Yes, scholar. It's very important for us to understand that. And I believe the problem is our history. Our people don't tell their children their history. So by the time that your child graduates, the child no longer want to identify with the parents. You have people in politics from our community who turn against the village. And it's difficult for them to understand. I consider them as vultures. They prey on the weak. The people they're supposed to help, they turn against them. They sampat. They did everything in their power to bring down Eric Gairy. A sustained level of criticism made in the lab They lie on him in all different fashion and form. And they had a more education, better able to present the facts to the public. But we have no reason today to let what happened happen. No reason. Because you have the children of labor have enough education, and we know the truth. We know the truth. The National Democratic Congress, one color called earlier, is very similar to the GNP. Over the years, moderates have taken over the NDC and make them a little bit more misguided. But the pure form of NDC today is like the GNP of yesterday. GNP said they're going to cause Grenada to be the unitary state. No damn little it unitary state. And they promise we're going to get the same pay as Trinidad. They never discussed the issue even with Trinidad, you know. But they promised Grenadian they will get the same pay. The same thing NDC did in 2008. They promised more money. You will get $400. We will give Imani $1,000. The same thing they did in 2020. Even after they meet a pregnant treasury, they still decided to cut the pay. They don't have a financial problem. The NDC have money. They don't broken. They meet the treasury pregnant. But they still decide to deny the weakest in our society, the most marginalized, the poor elderly, the poor physically challenged, and the children in need. I honestly believe that the time has come to appeal to moderate NDC to do a postmortem and find out why that political party is like that. We could have said in yesteryear they were the remnants of the plantocracy. We could have said that. We could have said they were petty bourgeoisie. But in today's society, they are the children of labor. And because they have an education, they believe they're in a different social class. Something have to be wrong. Something have to be wrong. After 49 years, you have these Grenadians that was generally educated with taxpayers' money. Most of them was the children of estate workers. They are poor people themselves. So they believe they are the smartest things in sliced bread. The words that come from the mouth is so despicable and disparaging remarks are made. And now they turn on the marginalized of the country. That is the people political parties fight for all over the world. Particularly in a democratic system, they fight for the marginalized. So it's a good case study. And I believe the doctor of journalism, and why do I say that? Because Deacon Mitchell recognized him as perhaps one of the objective journalists. And if that word could come from Deacon Mitchell, and he didn't disassociate himself with it, I think I qualify to call him. And I know he listened to me because he rebutted on my statement. So I appeal to him now. Do a research. That is the reason people have doctorate. When you have a master's degree, I do not encourage government to spend money on people who have master's degree to get doctorate. I don't encourage government to do that at all. I prefer to spend it in the primary school. But when you reach that level of qualification, when you reach that level of philosophy, you must do research. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, scholar, welcome.
Getting the Prime Minister now is that he done since Prime Minister whatever pass in Grenada. He don't know nothing about politics. Politics are the people. Is it done since man whatever pass in Grenada? Thank you.
Yes, scholar. So I agree. If you are a philosopher now, if philosophy, your doctorate, you should do a research. Find out why is it. Every time the National Democratic Congress enter government, within the first year, they disadvantage the marginalized in our country. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Good afternoon. I wish the next election that the United Labour Party could run against the NNP, not the NDC.
Well, that might be wishful thinking because this party has gone into extinction. So the two dominating parties still is the NNP and the NDC. And there is a lot of people in Grenada that support the NDC. They're very happy with the NDC policy. They're glad the NDC is trying to sanitize Grenada. They're glad a lot of people is losing their job. They're encouraging NDC to fire more people. I was a little bit surprised at the amount of people I hear encouraging the NDC to fire people. And that is why I believe the time has come when we should call an educated man, the doctor of journalism, to investigate why that party is like that. We have a party that every time they come in power, they does the same thing, and they does it worse. Immediately, they're prosecuting the disadvantaged. They lie. They use it as a law to attract people, as when you put corn with rum to hold full. And as soon as they come, they behave like a vulture. They go after the weak. They go after the elderly. They go after the physically challenged. And they go after needy children. The disadvantage. I think it's a good case study to find out why that political party is like that. And it's a good thing during this period of independence, because from now on we heading for the golden jubilee for independence. Is a good thing to find out. How do you move away from any, I've not heard any political party in the Caribbean go out of their way to disadvantage the elderly. I have not heard that. Sometimes you wish you could sit down and hold discussion with somebody more radical members of the NDC, but they don't sit with you and hold discussion. They may just call you stupid or dumb or singing for your supper. But you don't have to believe me. Play the devil's advocate and engage them. And sometimes I think we have a good country, but we have to acknowledge our strong points and acknowledge our weak points. And even compliment our leaders on the way. Because a lot of our politicians have tried. There is no question that Eric Gairy and Kit Mitchell has been the two outstanding individuals by a mile in front of the others. But Mr. Blaze tried too. He did his best. He tried. George Brizan was a reluctant individual that entered into politics. They constantly encourage him to come in politics, and then he came in very reluctantly. Mr. Brofitt was very reluctant to come into politics, but he get involved. Ben Jones shy away from leadership. Ben Jones did not have a strong conviction because he intended to join Eric Gairy, but the GNP then encouraged him to go with them. And given the leadership, he wasn't satisfied with it. And no, I used to talk to Uncle Ben. He didn't want leadership. He was prefer to be in a party where he didn't have to make the serious decision. Mr. Brofitt did not want to be head of the interim. They expected Alistair McIntyre to come. And he would have prepared to work with Alistair McIntyre. But when Alistair McIntyre indicated that he was not coming, Brafitt ended up with the leadership. And they fight to get Brafitt to lead NDC. I don't know if you remember the newspaper article time. Some people feel that was the deciding factor that convinced Brafitt that he must come. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, good afternoon.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Man, you only talking about Kit Mitchell, Mr. Kit Mitchell and Mr. Gairy, that educated people. Bishop do a lot too. He sent people and study for dentists, doctors, nurses. He teach a lot of people who couldn't read and write. I know that. A lot of people who were in the army couldn't read and write. They come out from the army, they could read and write. You must get jacket, man. All of them do the good. Mr. Kid do good. All of them do the good and the bad. Why you only talking about one set of people alone? Thank you very much.
Yes, caller, that is important. The last time they tell me I'm talking about Bishop too much. A bishop was a great orator. And I think I said that maybe he was very charismatic. And he was a great orator. And Grenadians loved him dearly. And a number of people went and followed their education. But Maurice Bishop jailed 3,000 Grenadians. And over 3,000 to 4,000 flee the country. And they castrate Broco. And they pong out the toenail of some policemen. Maurice Bishop in Monktrich alone. I don't know if you ever hear about the day Monktrich turned a graveyard. Maurice Bishop treated the people of Monktrich anti-volley very badly. And Maurice Bishop supervised worst crimes in Grenada after slavery and colonialism. And I don't know if you know about the Angola option. But all that falls under Maurice Bishop. But Maurice Bishop was a great orator. He jailed the Rastafarians. Yeah. But Mr. Brafitt was a kind of reluctant leader. And Mr. Tillman Thomas, well, they tried their best to make Uncle Tilly. But he kind of stubborn when he have a conviction. And he was not able to lead the team. So during that period at NDC, they sold 13 pieces of property in Grenada. 13 pieces of property was sold. The economy was in free fall. They sold property that did not belong to them. And they even sell what they couldn't sell. The shares they couldn't sell, they sell it. We would not be with you tomorrow, because tomorrow is Independence Day. Happy Independence, everybody. Let us try and strive to work together. We don't have to agree with everything. It's a democratic process. Let us be tolerant as much as possible. And let us try to work together and to appreciate the efforts of one another. And tell your children your history. Thank you very much.